Greetings, dear friends. Before I share this painful chapter of my life, please do me a small favor. Subscribe to the channel, give this video a like if you believe in justice, and leave a comment with the city or state you're watching from. It means the world to know my voice reaches you. Now, get comfortable. This story is long, raw, and true. My name is Margaret Whitmore. I'm 70 years old, a retired real estate developer from Seattle. I spent 40 years building a comfortable life, and I spent most of it spoiling my only child, my son Dylan. Dylan married Clara 8 years ago. Clara was gentle, hardworking, the kind of woman who remembered birthdays and baked bread from scratch. I loved her immediately. To give them a strong start, I bought them a 4-bedroom colonial house in Raleigh, North Carolina, paid in full. I put the deed in both their names, but I kept a small life estate so I could visit without worry. 2 years later, when Dylan turned 35, I gave him a black GMC Yukon Denali. "For the family you'll build," I told him. He kissed my cheek and promised the world. For a while, everything seemed perfect. Then, slowly, the cracks appeared. Clara's messages grew shorter. Her laugh disappeared from our video calls. Dylan always had an excuse: new job stress, late nights at the office, gym commitments. When I asked to speak to Clara, he'd say she was sleeping or out with friends. A mother feels these things. By last November, my gut was screaming. I booked a flight the day after Thanksgiving. No announcement, no warning. I told myself it was a surprise holiday visit, but I packed an overnight bag with shaking hands. The Uber pulled up to their beautiful house just after noon. The lawn was overgrown, mail spilled out of the box, curtains were drawn tight. I let myself in with my spare key. The smell stopped me in the hallway. Sour milk, unwashed laundry, cigarette smoke Dylan had sworn he quit years ago. The living room looked like a frat house: empty pizza boxes, beer cans, women's high heels I didn't recognize scattered by the couch. On the coffee table sat Clara's medication, strong antibiotics and steroids prescribed 6 weeks earlier for a persistent respiratory infection. The bottles were full, not one pill missing. I called their names. Nothing. Upstairs, the master bedroom was chaos. Dylan's clothes everywhere, lipstick-stained glasses on the nightstand, but Clara's side of the bed was cold and perfectly made. I found her in the small guest room at the back of the house. My daughter-in-law, once glowing and full of life, lay curled in a ball under a single sheet. She was terrifyingly thin, cheekbones sharp, skin gray. Her breathing was wet and ragged. When I touched her forehead, it burned. "Margaret?" she rasped, eyes fluttering. "Am I dreaming?" I called 911 before she finished the sentence. While we waited for the ambulance, Clara whispered pieces of the truth through cracked lips. She'd been sick since October, first a cold, then fever, then pneumonia. Dylan kept saying, "It's just the flu, you'll shake it." He promised to take her to the doctor, but never did. He brought food once a day if she was lucky. Most nights, he didn't come home at all. He told her they were tight on money and couldn't afford urgent care. She was too weak to argue. The paramedics lifted her onto the stretcher. She weighed 87 pounds. At WakeMed Hospital, the doctor was blunt. Bilateral pneumonia, severe sepsis, acute malnutrition, organ strain. She's been untreated for weeks. Another day or two alone, and we'd be having a different conversation. They rushed her into the ICU and put her on a ventilator. I sat by her bed, holding her hand through the glass, when my phone lit up. A text from Dylan. "Hey, Mom, hope Thanksgiving was great. Clara and I are just chilling at home. She's finally feeling better. Love you." I stared at those lying words until the screen went black. Then I walked to the hospital's big front windows and looked out at the parking circle. That's when I saw him. Dylan screeched into view in the black Yukon I'd bought him, music thumping so loud the ground vibrated. The windows were down. 2 young women sat inside, one in the passenger seat with her feet on the dash, the other leaning between the seats, all 3 laughing. Dylan had his arm around the driver's seat headrest, grinning like he owned the world. He circled the drop-off loop once, probably looking for parking, then sped off towards downtown. He never once looked up at the ICU windows where his wife was fighting for her life. Something inside me snapped, not with heat, but with ice, a cold, clear fury I'd never felt before. I didn't call him, I didn't cry. I sat down in the waiting room and started making decisions. First decision, the Yukon was registered solely in my name. I'd done it years ago to save on insurance. Dylan rolled his eyes and said, "Mom, you're paranoid." I smiled then. I wasn't smiling now. I stepped outside and called the Raleigh Police non-emergency line. "Good afternoon. I'd like to report my vehicle stolen, a 2023 black GMC Yukon Denali. I just observed an unauthorized male driving it recklessly near WakeMed Hospital with unknown passengers. The vehicle is titled in my name only." The dispatcher asked routine questions. I answered calmly. When she asked if I knew the driver, I said, "No, I do not." An hour later, patrol officers pulled Dylan over outside a rooftop bar downtown. He failed a sobriety test on the spot. The girls in the car were loud and indignant until police separated them. Dylan spent 3 nights in Wake County Jail on charges of grand theft auto, DUI, and resisting arrest. While he sat behind bars, I never left Clara's side. I paid for a private ICU room, the top pulmonologist, IV nutrition, everything money could buy. I held her hand when she woke up terrified. Her first coherent words were, "Please don't let Dylan in here." I promised her he would never touch her again. On the second day, I met with my attorney, Helen, a shark in pearls. I told her everything. I showed her photos of the untouched medicine bottles, the house in ruins, the text message from Dylan lying about being home with Clara. I instructed Helen to do 3 things immediately. 1. Remove Dylan's name from the house deed and transfer full ownership to Clara alone. 2. Sell the Yukon at auction and direct every penny to Clara's medical trust. 3. Draft a new will leaving my entire estate, properties, investments, everything, to medical research and women's shelters, not 1 cent to Dylan. Helen didn't blink. "You're sure?" I've never been more sure of anything. By the time Dylan was released, unkempt, furious, and smelling of jail, he had no car, no house keys, and no idea how completely his world had changed. He stormed into the hospital demanding to see Clara. Private security met him at the elevator and escorted him out. Then he found me in the family lounge. "Mom, what the hell? They treated me like a felon. My name is ruined. Fix this right now." I looked at him, really looked. The charming boy I'd raised was gone. In his place stood a selfish, entitled man who had nearly killed his wife with neglect. "You want me to fix it?" I asked quietly. "I'm the one who reported the theft. That vehicle was never yours legally. And the house? It belongs to Clara now, completely." He laughed, thinking it was a bluff. "You're joking. I'm on the deed." "Not anymore." His face crumpled. Then the performance began, the one he'd perfected since childhood. Tears, trembling voice, promises. "Mom, I screwed up. I was overwhelmed. I'll go to therapy. I'll get a job. Please, just give me another chance." He dropped to his knees in the middle of the hospital corridor, loud enough for strangers to stop and stare. I stepped around him and walked away. Over the next months, the rest fell apart. The Yukon sold quickly. The proceeds, over $60,000, went straight into a trust for Clara's recovery and future security. Dylan tried to move back into the house. He showed up with a duffel bag and fake apologies. Clara, from her hospital bed, signed a restraining order. When he tried again after her discharge, police removed him. He posted story butts online, how his abusive, controlling mother had abandoned him. Old friends saw the arrest reports, heard Clara's side, and vanished. He bounced from couch to couch, then cheap motels. Gambling debts surfaced, online sports betting, thousands run up on joint credit cards while Clara starved. Collectors started calling. One night, he left me a voicemail from an unknown number. "Mom, they're going to hurt me. I owe $42,000. Please, just this once. I'll disappear. You'll never hear me again." I didn't call back. Clara came home 6 weeks after I found her. She was still fragile, but alive. We cleaned the house top to bottom. New paint, new furniture, new locks, new alarm system. We threw out everything that carried his memory. The house became bright and peaceful again. Clara went to therapy. She started painting, beautiful landscapes full of light.